All right, episode 6 of Pop Culture Conversations. I think it's safe to say that Secret Invasion sucks, man. It just sucks. I'm curious to see what all the plot holes. When y'all listen, I held out the hope, but when y'all talk about lazy writing, it just became more and more apparent as it went on. At first, it was a slow burn, and I was like, all right, we're gonna hold out for the rest of the episodes. About episode 4, I started like, oh come on, and then the end is just like, it was like, what are you doing, Marvel? Disney, you just can't make great stuff anymore. Like, what did you think, Drake?
Well, we beat the bad writing horse to death. I did like this episode the most. The downside to this was the writing is so paper thin. I knew exactly what was going on. Like, I called exactly what was going on before it even became evident as to what was going on. And we now know why Fury didn't kill Rhodey a couple episodes before in the hospital, when everybody on the planet who watched the show was like, just shoot him and be done with him. But
what was that?
Because they needed him for this episode. Because he had to be there in the hospital with the president and Fury at the end of that episode. It's so ridiculous. It's like you built your entire show on Rhodey being in this place and these two being over here so they can become super powerful people.
Well, one of them, really.
Yeah. It's just like that. This should not have been called Secret Invasion. I agree with Bone when he said this was not Secret Invasion. This should have been called something totally different. Whatever the name they're going to give Gaia's character moving forward, that's what this show should have been called. Who is that? That would have been a better name.
I just wanted to say that many years ago I heard this phrase that if you give monkeys typewriter and enough time, they could write anything. And I think they had plenty of monkeys, plenty of typewriters, and plenty of time. I really don't have anything nice to say about this. It's like, what was the point of this whole episode? What was the point of the whole series?
I mean,
quick question before y'all say anything. Why couldn't you have Black Widow? The guy
she's dead.
The hawk. What's the guy with the arrows? What's his name? Hawkeye.
Yeah, but they just did.
What about the Winter Soldier? Does he have super soldier serum? Mm-hmm. Okay, can't have him. What about the guy that flies around and doesn't have it? The new Captain America. What about him? Can't have him.
Sam Wilson.
Why couldn't these guys come in and do some work? It's like you can't have the superpowered ones. It seems to me that if you're going to tie this up in 6 episodes, you better really get your job done. And they just didn't do it.
I can hold on. First, I just want to say, I mean, we're talking about what is the purpose. I guess there's a possibility, there's a purpose when we see the Marvels and when we see Armor Wars, because they're kind of setting up Armor Wars because that's supposed to be about Rhodey's the main character, so him not being there. Really, he hasn't been there since Captain America: Civil War. Because you look at him, he's wearing a hospital gown. It looks pretty much like he came right from the hospital after he fell. So which really pisses me off, because that means the entire scene in the end with Tony, when Tony dies, is all just crapped on. There's just what's crazy is when you talk about the absolute lack of just like sense in the writing. Like, we saw Gravik heal from his face getting blown off, half off. We saw Gaia heal from getting shot in the chest. She blows a hole in his stomach and he just dies. But it's like, okay, but you help from, because they said the Skrulls have the hearts on the left side. He knows where to kill. He shoots her to kill her, and she heals from this deadly wound that he, being an assassin, should have known would be deadly. So either he's just a crap killer, or she's able to heal from deadly wounds, but then she just shoots him in the middle of the stomach and he just dies. And what makes no sense, okay, first, Nick Fury, why would you give her all of the entire Avengers DNA, not just Avengers, Everybody who was in the in-game battle is pretty obvious. Thanos, all of those people, all the bad guys, everybody who has superpowers DNA was in that jar. Why would you give this to her and have her bring it in to give it to Grav? It's the most retarded, stupidest thing in the entire world. It's like, even if he was going, okay, well, she's going to go in there and use it to become powerful, why would you do that? That's a stupid move. It's a retarded move. And so he gives her this DNA. Now, what's she the most powerful? He should be that powerful too. The most powerful. They got to be the most powerful beings in the MCU. They have the power of every hero and villain. You're talking about Thanos, who like 1v1 the Hulk. They have his blood. You have all of these people. She just did the magic with Cold City, and who was like, kind of tying off with a Strange. Everybody's blood in there. They have in them. There should be the most powerful beings in the entire MCU. It's like, okay, now like what?
Why would they mix it all together in the first place? Why would you have it in one vial?
Yeah,
I mean, what kind of a cocktail is that?
You're just going to create like a...
They called it a suicide when you mix
abomination.
like 4 different kinds of soda together. What's that called?
Yeah, at this point, I mean, when you really get down to the powers and everything else, I mean, they just gave... I mean, they got Asgardian powers. They got the Guardians of the Galaxy. But like, to what...
Everybody.
They got everybody. And it's like... why? Why would you give them everybody? And both of them. I mean, I understood she brought this because he was going to analyze it to see what was in there. You could have put like 4 or 5 characters in there and done that and made it something. And your hope was that she was going to kill him. But to the point, he's not dead. Really? You think he's dead? Do you really think he's dead? Bo?
No, I think barring, flying that guy into the sun, I mean...
I think he shouldn't be dead, but I think that because it's two sides. On one side, I think it's possible he's not dead because they obviously, an actor like that, they would probably want to use him in something else. But I think he shouldn't be dead. But the writing is so bad, like it makes sense that he could be, man. Because like the stuff they'd be doing, it's like you turn around, you just forget. It's like they just kind of forget what was going on. It's like it's the same problem that's been going on for forever, which is this guy comes in and new guy and writes all this stuff, and he didn't really pay attention to what the last guy wrote, so we have no idea what's going on there, and we just retconned all that and changed all that. And now it's the same thing. It is a common issue comics used to have all the time, where it'd be like, in one issue, this guy can't move I could hardly move a truck, and the next like writer comes in and he's like able to pick up the world and like just throw it around. It's like when people come in, it's just off and on. But when you have people who aren't even paying attention to your universe and knowing what these characters are and what they're doing, it's like you have a guy who started all this. What we talked about last week, the short I just came up today. He made all of this. Like, he started the MCU. He brought the Avengers. He brought all these people together. He trusted these. I mean, listen, he trusted these people to fight these world-ending battles. I mean, I think killing all the humans on the Earth is a world-ending battle. And now, overnight, without any inclination, suddenly he's just like, oh, well, we don't need their help anymore. And this guy, you painted him the entire series to be weak and useless, and you never paid that off. And so is he weak and useless? Like, it sure seems that way, because you never had him come out and be like, okay, now y'all underestimated me. I was playing this short game, and I actually am like, still don't know. The old Fury's gone. This is the new Fury. He's just weak and old, and he's just a weak old man.
Yeah. Well, so I just wanted to say that you did point out that the main problem with this comic book series was comic book. Go ahead.
So it's crazy that you bring up, Doc. You bring up the fact that you have these comic books that have editorial issues between this series has this character in it and he has this powers and this level and he can beat this character, but then over here that character gets beat by someone way less powerful and it doesn't make sense. And the really pathetic and sad part about it was that for a long time that was DC Comics' MO. They had so many different characters. They had all these different crossovers. They had this Earth with this Batman and this Earth with that Batman. And the Superman is old and married to Lois Lane over here. And the Superman isn't with Lois Lane and he's not old yet. And then you had Superboy over here and you had this world over here. And you got Earth 2 or Earth X with like the bad guy Justice League and Ultraman is the evil Superman and all this stuff. And all this crazy stuff is going on that just retcons 90% of what every writer writes. And the only thing you can really pay attention to is just their ongoing title and just don't look at anything going on outside those titles with those characters. That was the big boon for Marvel for years.
You mean DC?
No, that was the problem with DC.
Boone. Okay.
The big boon, as in the point that Marvel had and why Marvel was better, was because their editors, and they had book editors and then they had editor-in-chief. And these guys actually took the time to make sure that the continuity didn't get stepped on between titles. So fast forward to the last 25 years, and now Marvel is bought by Disney. Disney doesn't care about editorial continuity. That's obvious. They're just making movies. They are literally, since Jon Favreau and the fan club, the fanboy team that was running Marvel for the beginning has stepped away, you have people that are looking at dollar signs going, well, we just have to put these people in there and it's going to sell. It's this comic series, we're going to push that's going to sell. It's a freaking joke at this point. It's the fact that like we talked about, they have all the material they would ever need to make stories. And then you could adapt them based on what will work for a budget and what won't. But with CGI, just about anything will work on a budget at this point. You could do anything. And they have proved time and time again between Star Wars and Marvel that they are not going to be able to write anything worth a shit. And I'm sorry, that's just the way it is.
I don't know that you can blame the writers, because you can give a writer a task to write something, but it's like, yes, writers are supposed to be aware of continuity. They're supposed to be aware of stuff like that. But the showrunners, right? The directors, the people, the producers, you got to find people. It's like whoever's in charge of quality control, they're not hiring the right people. The wrong people are in charge, because we've seen what they could do. I mean, that run up to Endgame, I mean, it was, at the beginning, if you remember back at the beginning, Iron Man, I was like, okay, this is interesting. But whenever it hit the ground and it's like really running, and then you get into some of the later titles, this stuff was amazing. And so writers are capable of writing, but there's no watchdog, there's no person, there's no watchers. There's no person taking down whoever that person is. I think if it's Kennedy or whoever these people are, they're just not doing their job.
And that's the biggest difference between, what we're seeing in live action, what we see in comics, which is you have a writer and you have art, and like they work together, but it's like people establish themselves in the comics, and it's like if they're not writing great stuff, people aren't buying it. And so you have these guys that are great writers, and you know their names, and they do a run over here, and people go, okay, that guy's really fire over here. He did this entire X-Men run, and it's blowing up. If we put him over here, maybe we'll do great. And sometimes it doesn't work, but you have these people that establish themselves, and they establish themselves on the merit of their writing alone, and they have that control, right? A lot of times they're working with the artist or whatever, and they may do these co-creations, but it's not like they write the script and someone else like tweaks it. But even then, I don't know the depths of getting into how I don't know what the Secret Invasion looked like before when the writers wrote it, before it got to all these other people. I think the point is like you were saying, we've kind of the people will claim themselves to be fans, because I watch videos about these things where they're talking about or they'll have those things out there with the director and I have this person over here who's a comic book, whatever, and she's keeping me in touch with the comics and but then what they come up with is is crap, and it looks like these people just don't really care about the characters at all. Like they really don't care about the characters. They don't care about the medium. They don't care about any of these things, and they're just trying to make this big buck, this money off of these people who are passionate about it. Oh, these people love Spider-Man. They'll come and watch a Spider-Man movie. These people love Nick Fury, Marvel. They'll come watch a Nick Fury Secret Invasion. It's clearly like clickbait. It's like, well, at this point, it's obviously clickbait because we all know Secret Invasion was already a thing that already occurred. And by taking that name, you're clickbaiting us into believing that's what's going on. And it's nothing like it. It shouldn't, like we were saying in the last episode, it shouldn't even be called Secret Invasion at this point. It's cheap. It's just, you're stealing you're taking the energy that someone else has already accumulated by great writing just in that name. And you're hanging off of that. And
right.
You're to try to get eyes on your product.
They could have done something where it was they could have kept it on a small scale like they did, and it could have just been the battle for that DNA between Gravik and the one girl. And you could have really showed her. They could have been doing the same sneaking around and all that stuff. Forget all the grand scale. It's just he's with the governments being involved, and it just had it to where they're running around they could show that they have a little bit of powers. They can get to use them. They could have a little bit of stuff in each. I mean, they could have just done so much more with the same amount that they spent.
To be honest, they should have introduced all the powers much earlier.
Oh yeah.
Because they should have introduced them much earlier and given the time to explain their weaknesses. Because honestly, at this point, they have to be able to give them some sort of limit. Otherwise, they're ridiculous. They have to be like, oh, well, they can't use this is their limits. They're only a quarter of the strength of that person or whatever. They can't.
Right.
They have to give them limits, but they didn't do that. So now we have to just presume that these are gods now, or this one lady is a god now. She has the power of every single one of these people, including Thanos, who is like, without the Infinity Stones, was wrecking the Avengers. She has all of these people's powers.
So, on the power note, the most powerful character that she used their powers, the two main characters that she used in there was Binary, which is Carol Danvers and with the power of a star. That's what she was in binary mode in that point when she's in the air. And the Hulk, obviously. And whatever the rock Korg guy is, the rocky guy that hangs out.
Korg?
I thought what's his name had a arm with Thanos for a moment there.
He might.
Or one of them
might
did.
have. But-
I didn't go back and look at it.
The Drax. She had one of them had Drax's arm.
But
Yeah, she had it at the beginning.
so the issue, the real problem was they said this is going to be a spy kind of keep you on the edge of your seat.
Thriller?
Who done it thriller? You're not going to know until the end.
We know who done it from the beginning.
So you knew immediately that Rhodes was a Skrull. So there was no kind of there was nothing at all. There was nothing to even concern. So you knew that was there. The closest thing to on the edge of your seat, what's going on is if you couldn't figure out that it was Gaia changed into Fury walking through there, going in there with the stuff. And that was like
the last episode.
Yeah, that was obvious. But the one time in the series, the first episode, when the agent ended up being a Skrull and all that was cool. And then the second episode or the third episode, second or third episode, I can't remember which one it was, when Telos goes to the diner or the coffee shop that's meet Gravik, and everybody in the room changed into the same looking Skrull, same looking guy. And you're like, ooh, that was cool. As well as the first episode when they're walking around, they detonate the bomb and all of them are changing and doing stuff. That stuff was cool. They didn't do that ever again in the show. They never went back to that after those two scenes in those two episodes. They didn't play the espionage. Anybody could be a Skrull except for these people sitting around the table. They're all these influential people. We're not going to show you them doing their jobs. We're telling you that that's who they are and they're cool and they're Skrulls. But you never, ever once again in the entire series saw anybody else that you thought might have been on their side that walked away and it was actually a Skrull. And it's like, I got him. I fooled him. Never. They never used it, not one more time in the series. It was 3 scenes. 3 scenes. And it was supposed to be a cloak and dagger spy thriller. Are you kidding me? 6 episodes. And until the very last scene where Fury and anybody watching knew that was Emilia Clarke as Fury. And then he goes to punch and Fury grabs the fist and you're like, well, I call that the minute he's walking into the place pretending to cough.
Look,
that's beyond producers and writers. That's just garbage.
I think what they should have done is they should have made it where Gravik was like a mob boss. And they really should have done a little Scorsese thing in there, done a really nice, sweet mob thing where they're trying to infiltrate the mob and steal the juice, the little superhero juice. I think, look, the best part was Eye Patch kisses broccoli. That's the best part of the whole series, and I think that was worth all the money they spent. And I think that I'm going to get a picture of that framed up on my wall, so if I ever eat some poison, I can look at it and I can vomit.
Yeah, but they basically, unless I missed like a whole lot of comic continuity, they just wrote that into this particular TV show just to do that for this TV show for whatever reason. As far as I know, in the comics, Fury's not married to a Skrull.
Listen, I think the last thing, this is all I got to say, because at this point I'm just done talking about it. The last thing is 2 things I got to say. One, it is pretty depressing the way they left it, which is pretty stupid. They just left it being like, yeah, well, the world is shit. Everything sucks. All the people and the humans. Talos gave his life for no reason. Absolutely, his entire dream of being able to prove, no, he's just gonna hate all the humans and all the.
And then preach to us a little bit.
Yeah,
it's just
in the end.
Tell us how bad we are.
It's just depressing. The world is just overly like, yep, the world is shit. Humans are crap. We all suck. Nick Fury just gave up on us. He's going back to space because he realizes there's no point being down here with y'all. Y'all suck. And then the other thing is that it's just another point to the continuity, which I'm sitting here going, okay, Gravik is gonna kill everyone on this planet, right? He's gonna nuke everyone on the planet, right? But then he's telling Fury about, you made me kill people. And that took a piece of me. And the guy he's talking about, the guy whose face he took, the first person he killed, he had a family. You just literally last episode killed your second in command just because he questioned you. Just stabbed him in the heart. Killed the fellow Skrulls that you were supposed to be protecting. And you have clearly you said humans are less than dogs. And now in the last episode, suddenly you're like, you made me kill people, and that really hurt. I actually care about people. This guy wasn't a bad guy. But you just said, humans are less than dogs at the beginning of this. There's no continuity in your own damn series. Not just a worldwide MCU. Between 6 episodes, you can't keep your stuffs together. Your shit straight. You can't keep your story straight. Between 6 episodes, your guy goes from this side to this side.
And back again.
Yeah. It's like, was this written 20 years apart? And like
Monkeys.
This person died and the next guy came in and was like, oh, here's a new idea.
Monkeys.
So, and one of you mentioned that maybe the Marvels fixes this. Well, the Marvels just got postponed. They just kicked it down. It's
again
because they delayed.
Is that a fact?
This whole strike.
Yeah, but that movie's done.
Postponed.
That movie's done and ready to go. I think it was coming out like in less than a month. They just kicked it.
They should never release that film.
That's not gonna.
Never look if you're listening, if you're paying attention. Never release that film.
This is what's sad, man. Because I watched it. Because listen, I watched the trailers.
I'll tell you right now, that film, I didn't watch the Miss Marvel or is it Miss Marvel?
Yeah.
Whatever the Marvel Girl or whatever Miss Marvel TV show, but the two people, I don't mind the actress playing Carol Danvers. Was it Brie Larson? Brie Larson. I like her. She was great in the King Kong Skull Island. I don't mind her as Captain Marvel. I like Carol Danvers as a character. She's like a character that I liked from Avengers to X-Men and back again. A Monica Rambeau, which they were bringing in as, was it Spectrum? Is that what they're calling her in that TV show?
I don't know what name they gave her.
Photon or Spectrum were the two names that she had after being called Captain Marvel in the comics. Those two characters, because she was even in the Scarlet Witch and Vision show. I like those characters. I don't know anything about the Kamala Khan character. That's a newer character that Marvel's introduced in the last 5-6 years, or maybe a little last 10 years or something. But I was gonna watch it because the whole changing places goes back.
That had my interest.
Went all the way back to the origins of the original Captain Marvel comics, and it looked cool. But I would go in there going, well, I hope it's entertaining. Like we talked about TV shows, and I do think that the next list we do, we're gonna rank the Marvel TV shows. But the She-Hulk show that people hates on, at least the continuity in that show is consistent, and it's watchable. And by the end, it's got a little comedy at the end. That's how that character is. And this was a train wreck from beginning to end. At least the She-Hulk show, aside from some blatant little things they dropped in there for their own little agendas, that show was watchable, and you had all kinds of stuff going on that was fun. This was not really fun.
Yeah, I think to cap it off, it was just nothing. It's not. That's exactly what we said. It wasn't fun, and I understand it's not supposed to be fun, exciting, jovial. It wasn't. It wasn't exciting or interesting at all. There was no moments where it was like, dude, what's gonna occur, or even just there was nothing that elicited emotion. You're just sitting here going, okay, well, next episode's in a couple of days. But speaking of that, I think
real quick, I watched the first the movie, what the Miss Marvel movie, whatever it was called.
Mm-hmm. Captain Marvel. The movie
Captain Marvel. I heard a lot of bad stuff. I actually liked that film. It wasn't great, but it wasn't bad.
That movie
and I
was
somewhat
fine.
like Brie Larson is sort of dry and kind of it's almost like she doesn't have a personality. But
doesn't.
I like the way she played the role. I even like some of her stuff. When she's telling Peter, "You got something for me?" I just kind of like some of the things that she's done. So it's not a thing against Brie Larson for me.
I liked the Captain Marvel movie.
I liked it too. I don't know many people that did, but I liked it, not knowing anything about the character. But yeah, I mean, I think Doc really summed it up the best and said when he said, "What's the point?"
What was the point? It's instead of who can you trust? It's what's the point?
It's Marvel is just like throwing filler out there to get people to watch. So
You cannot afford to do filler when you're running a multi-billion-dollar company. Why couldn't you do a 10-run comic book series, leading people up to all this stuff to where you can't cover it? There's 6 episodes, dude. How can you even tell a story like that in 6 episodes with? All right, I'm done.
Yeah, I think we've the past 5 episodes we beat it. So I think it's like.
So before we move on to the next topic, the next, I think, are we in agreement that after this train wreck, we're gonna the next thing that we tear down, or not tear down, because I don't expect to be tearing it down. I expect to be really liking it. Is it gonna be Ahsoka? Is that the next one we're gonna do?
The next thing
the breakdown?
Yeah,
the next breakdowns?
Yeah, it's coming out in one month.
Yeah, because
we might find something else to do.
Live. No, we're gonna do stuff, but that's the next new release.
Yeah, because
we're gonna revisit stuff. But
I need something that I can watch that I can be like excited about.
Hopefully, there seems to be some.
Why don't we do a prelude to it, and we'll watch the trailers and talk about what we think about it.
We'll do that. Let's do it. Next week we'll cover the trailers. So top 10, top 5.
So this is whose list was this? This is Doc's list. We're doing
Doc's idea.
Top 10. Yeah, his idea. Top 10 DC. I can't even say the word DC. DC Batman villains. Okay, and so look, I'm gonna give a brief explanation of the ones that I like, and then you can tell me about them. So I like Scarecrow. I think that in some of the things I've seen, that character's kind of scary. There's a lot of I don't know, just weirdness around that character. I definitely like Harley Quinn. I like Poison Ivy. Did I say I meant Uma Thurman? I mean, I like Poison Ivy. But I just really don't, because I mean the truth of it is Batman is very cool. I just find it difficult to kind of get involved with DC's thing. But anyway, we're gonna turn it over to Doc. You're going first?
No, he's going first.
Oh, Drake's going first.
Drake's going first.
This is gonna be interesting. You ready?
Okay. All right, my top 10. I'm not even bothered with honorable mentions. I'm gonna let Doc have all the honorable mentions here because there's 2 or 3 characters that are not on this list there's 2 characters that are not on this list that
I can't promise they'll be in my honorable mentions.
Anyway, all right, so number 10 is going to be the Scarecrow. Scarecrow's
10. Interesting.
Scarecrow's 10. He was cool. He's always been fun. And we did that short video with Tim Sale and Jeff Loeb, and
we didn't do it with them.
But we did it about. We did Long Halloween and Dark Victory, and the first book that they did was a Halloween special that came out like the year before they decided to do the Long Halloween, and the villain in it was Scarecrow, and Scarecrow is just, I really like him, and the Tim Sale doing the art, and he's got the mask with the crazy gas stuff that he uses that makes Batman and all his villains hallucinate, and you don't really have a clue. It like warps reality. It's almost like a little bit like Mysterio from Spider-Man. And I really like him. And in the movie, was it one of the Christian Bale movies where he's worked out where all the Arkham, he empties Arkham, and Batman's suffering from the gas for half the movie, and he's running around, and I can't remember who played the part of the Scarecrow in that, but it was cool. He had that burlap sack bag that he wore on his head. He was in the Sin City movie too. He's really popular as like a younger guy, but I liked it. I like him. That's my number 10. Number 9 is Mr. Freeze. Really? That's funny. So number 9 is Mr. Freeze. Stay cold. Wasn't that Arnold? Didn't Arnold play Mr. Freeze in the movies? So I just like Mr. Freeze from all this stuff.
Cillian Murphy? He's that one guy that.
He played Scarecrow.
Have y'all ever seen?
You talking about
You know where they had the little hat.
yeah, no, yeah.
You haven't seen that show?
Peaky Blinders. I've watched a little bit of it.
So,
Wow.
I really like Mr. Freeze, and the story behind him about like his wife, or it's his wife, right? Yeah. And just all the circumstances around his origin, and he's one of those villains that he's a bad guy, but you feel bad for him, but he's Batman's just always beating him. He's like, I like him though, but he's a fun character, and going back. Because this all goes right back to Tim Sale's artwork. This is like, he was like the guy that really put Batman on the map for me. Like, I always liked Batman. Kelly Jones' artwork on Batman was amazing, but Tim Sale, he does a rendition of Mr. Freeze and that Long Halloween stuff that is just, it's fantastic. So that's number 9. Number 8 is the Riddler. In the Hush story, the Riddler is really, really, really popular. And back in the day, back in the day, he was like all the way back to like when I was a little kid watching the Adam West Batman TV show. The guy that played the Riddler it wasn't, what was his name? It wasn't Ernest Borgnine, but it was somebody like that. He'd come out there with that little green outfit on. He'd be like, and he'd have his little cane in his hat, and he would come up with all these crazy schemes and riddles, and man, he was just. And even in the latest movie, the Batman with Pattinson, the Riddler's the bad guy in that. And I really liked it. I thought it was great. And it was almost like a serial killer Riddler, the way they did him in that. It was really kind of cool. Number 7. Number 7 is going to be Harley Quinn. I would have liked to put her higher, but there was no way to put her higher on this list. And so Harley Quinn, I mean, a lot like what Bone said during his female characters. She named the bat Puddin'. So Harley Quinn, I really liked her, and her baseball bat's named Puddin'. And she walks around going, "Oh, Mr. J, oh, Mr. J, oh, Mr. J." I love it. I've read the comics, and what is even better about the comics for me is the last couple series. Amanda Connor and Jimmy Palmiotti, who I'm friends with, have actually been doing the art, and Amanda's take on her and the comics is awesome. And she teams up with some characters I really like. Her and Poison Ivy do a lot of stuff together, and they've had all kinds of crazy stuff going on. And she's almost like, when she's not around the Joker, she's could almost be one of those like vigilante hero types. Like almost be like, oh, especially if there's children or somebody that can't take care of themselves being abused or something like that. So you almost feel like she could turn the corner and be like another Catwoman person that kind of walks both sides if Mr. J isn't involved. So Harley Quinn is going to be my number 7. Number 6, this might upset Doc a little, but number 6 for me is Bane. Bane, I mean, like Doc has mentioned in the past, he broke Batman's back. He beat Bruce. But the comics originally, when they brought him in and that whole storyline was awesome, but Bruce did get to come back. He ended up being the guy, and he's interacted with Bane again in the past that, and he's been able to the best Bane. Bane was one of those characters that a lot of people looking in took for granted that he was just this big guy that used this crazy steroid injection to be really powerful and pump up his strength and be able to beat on stuff, and they portrayed him in the movies as being kind of a little stupid. But the reality with that character was, he wasn't stupid at all. He was a mastermind. He had been figured out how to use all these other people and pushed all this stuff to just basically wear Batman down and just beat Bruce into a submission until he finally comes in and is like, I'm the one doing this and I'm going to kick your ass now.
So why did he wear the cup on his face? Because it was like, I'm sure there was like an empty locker somewhere.
He doesn't wear that in the comics.
Yeah. Okay. Number 5. This is where our list will now diverge. Number 5 for me is Killer Croc. From the Hush series and a bunch of other stuff, I just really like Killer Croc. And I have this thing with alligators and crocodilia and stuff, and it goes back to being a child where they really just scare the living shit out of me. And I don't really like that. But on the side of that character, it's like never fails. It's like those two have some of the coolest combat and some of the best fights. And the artists that I've seen do them, like back Tim Sale and Jim Lee, have made that character look so cool. And the Jim Lee Hush storyline without that stuff going on, that's a character I've always. If there's a Killer Croc issue and a cover, I'll pick it up and take a look at it, and I'm always on the verge of buying it. So that goes back strictly to art. All right. All right, number 4. This is now, keep in mind, this is my top 10. So number 4 for me is Two-Face.
Who?
Two-Face. Going back to Long Halloween, and it seems like the preface for a lot of stuff here. That, like Doc and I talked about in this video we did. That's out now. You can watch it. If you haven't seen it, go look at us talk about Long Halloween. It's great. Then come back and finish watching this one. Two-Face, that was like the Two-Face origin, but Two-Face is like, he's trying to do the right thing. And the whole concept of the character where after he gets the face deal going and he's got the coin with the X on it, he's flipping the coin to the side. He's trying to be fair. And he's still, even when he's psycho crazy, he's still trying to do the right thing and be like, I'm going to give you an option. I'm going to flip the coin and you have a chance. Now, granted, it doesn't work out for everybody, but that character is just so cool. The beginning, you feel bad for him and his whole life is falling apart. And then he comes back and it's almost like, it's very similar to like the Joker where he's all messed up, but the Joker's just so far off the deep end. It's not even funny. All right, the top 3. Okay.
Haven't heard Mr. J in this list yet.
So part of me wants to move somebody from somewhere to something just because there are two characters that I like a lot. Although the Joker to me is really popular. These other 2 characters, I almost like them more, even though Batman is all about him. So this is going to be me pulling a Doc from the Spider-Man deal, and I'm going to put Joker at 3. Just to be different. I love the Joker and some of the storylines with him, like Death in the Family. That, not the new one, but the original Death in the Family, where he kidnaps Jason Todd's mother and he beats him with a crowbar and leaves a dynamite in there and blows him and his mother to Kingdom Come. And they die. And then Killing Joke, where he decides he's going to be just that guy. He knocks on Barbara's door, Commissioner Gordon's door, and Barbara answers the door, and he's like, bam! Doesn't wait to see who opens the door. He doesn't even care who opens the door. Just, whoever opens the door, I'm going to shoot him. He shoots Barbara right here, right through her spine, cripples her. So she goes screaming Batgirl to Oracle. And it's like, just totally changes that girl. And Commissioner Gordon just sitting there like, what the hell? And all these different storylines that go on with the Joker and all these different things he does. And like we alluded to in the conversation about the Long Halloween, he just soon blew up the whole city to get the guy that's making him look like he's not the top bad guy in the world. So, and the things that he does is just beyond psycho. In fact, Doc, when we're done with this, I want you to talk about, wasn't it you that said there were 3 Jokers?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want you to explain that again on this. So he's going to be number 3. All right. Number 2. This is Batman now. Number 2 is Poison Ivy. I explained this in my top female characters. She is such a badass villain that I would edge her just in that. Poison Ivy is the character, one of the characters in the Batman family of characters and villain types that I just, if she's in there, I love it. And based on the artist, I'll track down different artist renditions of her. And we talked about the fact that, you know, she could just with a whim and her ability, it's mostly men. I don't think she can control women. But when in the Batman unit world, you don't really have to control that many women. Because the men you're controlling can take care of almost all of the women that are involved in that particular Batman family. And like we talked about in the Hush storyline with her controlling Superman, but she does it again in Long Halloween, and it's like every time you turn around, she's manipulating somebody. So that brings me to number 1. And this just goes back to just my personal favorite. Number 1 for me is Ra's al Ghul. And I really enjoyed how they did the movie, but the comic versions, some of my most liked Batman stuff near the end of the run and in the detective run before New 52 started was right after they killed Bruce and all these Ra's stories are going on. And then Talia comes in and Bruce and Talia have their relationships. And then you have Damian, Batman's son, and then Ra's is the grandfather of this borderline psycho Robin and all this other stuff going on. But Ra's is this kind of like big crime boss, bigger than life, like not crime boss, but he's like such on this. He's almost like Bruce's perfect adversary because he has the resources and all this other stuff at his disposal, and he disappears and then shows back up again, and it's just like you think he's done, and then he's back again, and you never know if Talia is really on your side or if she's working for her dad, and Ra's is just one of those characters that I've always loved Ra's. So Ra's is my number one.
I want to know why Michelle Pfeiffer wasn't on your list. I mean,
she's not really a villain. Catwoman's not really a villain anymore at this point.
Yeah, they're married.
So Catwoman and Harley Quinn are not on my list because Catwoman's not really a villain to me. She started that way, but realistically, she's married to him. And then to me, Harley Quinn's not really a villain anymore.
Yeah, Bruce and Selena are married.
Harley Quinn's not really a villain anymore. They kind of have played along that she was manipulated by the Joker, and she's really more of an anti-hero. More
Which
of a
is
hero,
like what
really.
we were saying, yeah.
So they're not on my list. My honorable mentions. Number one's gonna be the Penguin. I just don't think the Penguin goes on the list. To me, he's not really a villain, a super villain. He's a bad guy, but he's a representation of crime. He's a crime boss who's just hanging out, and he's always there, but he's never really like trying to take over the world. He's just trying to make money, and so Batman's got to deal with the crime, and he's doing these bad things, but he's not really one of the top 10 villains. Second is going to be Killer Croc. I like Killer Croc. He's one of the most visually stunning, like you said, the art, visually stunning characters. But the thing about Killer Croc is there's some great Killer Croc stories, and there's a few writers that get Killer Croc, but generally when writers write Killer Croc into a story, they don't hit it. They don't hit the measure. They don't really know what to do with that character super well when he's put in the story. And then my other honorable mention is Zsasz, which might surprise people. I love Zsasz. I mean, I hate it. He's a bad guy, but I love Zsasz, and this is why I love Zsasz. I love when Zsasz is in the story because Zsasz, he's not been in a lot of stories, but the thing about Zsasz is I have a like for just some simple stories where the hero comes in and beats the crap out of the villain, and you just have an evil guy, and that's what Zsasz is. Like Zsasz never has a chance. He's a bad guy. He's a serial killer who's killed a lot of people, and he puts a mark on himself every time he kills somebody. He's covered in marks. But every Zsasz story, he's about to kill somebody, and he's like, I'm a serial killer, and I like killing people. And then Bad just comes in and denied, and he just beats him the entire issue. And it's like cheap candy. It's just like, I love it. I just love seeing this purely evil guy get the shit beat out of him for an entire episode. I just love it, man. I don't know why, but he's not one of the top 10. So that said, number 10 is going to be Poison Ivy. Not a big Poison Ivy fan. She's okay. She's Poison Ivy's cool. She can control people. She's done a lot of crazy things. More recently, she's become less of a villain as well. They've kind of written her differently. Same like they did with Clayface. They're doing a few of those that way. She's really tight with Harley Quinn. And a lot of her things, you know, the way she's been written in a lot of different ones, she's more like protecting the earth and plants and all these things. She's about ecology or whatever, and she's in her own little world. She's got some really cool powers. She can turn people against you. But and she's a villain, so she has that sort of history there, but she's not that very high on my list. Number 9 and number 8, we both got the same number. Number 9 is Mr. Freeze. Mr. Freeze is cool. Mr. Freeze he looks cool. He's just cold. He's weirdly cool, which he shouldn't be because he's a German guy. He's got like this Nazi vibe almost, but he's just like this cold, just like, you know, he's just like his character. He's cold and he's like trying to freeze you, and he's just like, you know, whatever, I'm gonna get you, Batman, and whatever. And he just has no sense of humor. It's like the Robins will be in there making jokes. He has just no sense of humor. And it's just like this guy. It's just like, but he looks cool with his helmet and his little circle glass. And then Batman always has to go, like, gets frozen. Then he has to go and get the special suit to deal with the cold. It's always an issue. The cold's always an issue for him. Number 8 is the Riddler. Man, the Riddler could be so much better, but they've done so much hokey crap with the Riddler and the way he looks. Overall, the Riddler is he's an intellectual. He's intellectually even with Bruce Wayne, like Batman. He's brilliant. He's got a psychological issue where he can't help himself but leave hints. Like he has to leave hints. But they've done so much hokey stuff with him. But there's been some really good stories. Like, man, one of the coolest stories what they did in DC. I'm a huge fan of Scott Snyder's DC run. They did Batman Year One, was an early Batman, and he takes over the city. Like the Riddler takes over the entire city, and Batman, like for several issues, is like going through all these labyrinths, getting deeper and deeper in to kind of trying to figure out how to get control. Because he just like locks the whole city down, takes all the power out. It's like they have no power. It's like the beginning. It's almost like Cataclysm, and he has control of the city. And then he's like, every day he'll come out with a riddle, and you have to answer the riddle. If you answer the riddle, then he'll whatever the reward was, and if you don't, I think you get killed. He's just a bad guy, but they've done so much hokey stuff with him that people don't take him seriously. And so, and the riddle me this Batman kind of vibe, it just doesn't work. Number 7 is the Scarecrow. Yes, the Scarecrow is a beast. He shouldn't be. He's creepy. He's a skinny guy. But here's the thing, man. So much in this life, so often people do things because of fear and make decisions because of fear. And this guy weaponizes fear. And it's like people do things in this world already. People hurt the people close to them because of fear. They act rationally because they're afraid of things. They're just insane because of fear already is a massive, powerful motivator. This dude weaponizes that. And it always he always screws Batman up. Batman comes back, but he always hits him with the fear toxin, and then he's all freaked out. Or he hits somebody else in there with the fear toxin, and they're all on the loop for a while because they're seeing their worst fears and all these things. Always. And he's got then when he gets the fear toxin is when you get the really cool art with all the weirdly creepy stuff. I mean the Scarecrow does some crazy stuff. Then number 6 is going to be the Batman Who Laughs. He's got to be on the list, man. He's just that awesome. But
I haven't read that, so I couldn't put him on the list.
The issue is he would be so much higher, but he's a newer character and he's dead now. They've only used him. He's only been a few stories. If you don't know who the Batman Who Laughs is, I did a short on it basically. But in an alternate, they did an entire crossover, an event called Dark Knight's Metal. Basically, they said, okay, New 52 has a multiverse, right? There's 52 different alternate universes in this multiverse. Well, basically, they introduced there's something called the Dark Multiverse, which is basically the backside of that map. It's just darkness. It's all the nightmarish worlds. So all these worlds have gone to crap. And so then basically this demon god god named Barbados has been setting all this stuff up, whatever. He brings all these. One of his second right-hand man, because he brings in all these nightmare versions of Batman, is the Batman Who Laughs, which is Batman who is affected with the Joker toxin. Bruce Wayne, who is infected with the Joker toxin and becomes like an insane Joker guy. Like the most lethal version of the Joker toxin. Like the first thing he does, he goes to the cave and he calls all the people together. And he calls them together and he's like, the Bat family. And he's like, guys, I've been hit by this Joker toxin and whatever. And, we got to fix this or whatever. He's like all hunched over in the corner and like, they're like, okay, we can fix this. We can work together. And he's like, oh no, you don't understand. Like it's already too late. He turns around, mows them all down with a machine gun, just kills all of them, just kills the entire family. He has freaking Robins on chains, like cannibalistic, like dog demon Robins on chains. This dude is insane, all right? And it's the biggest thing because it's like, it really, in the end of the day, Batman would be his worst enemy. And it shows like this, when this guy with the insanity of the Joker, which we'll tie in a little bit more about the Joker and the tie-in between the Batman and the Joker, how dangerous Bruce Wayne is. Like this dude becomes a multiversal threat with his brain and all these things, and he's nuts. And the character just looks really cool. If they had used him for more, he would be higher on the list. But the problem is that he was in a few stories, then he dies. Number 5 is going to be the Court of Owls, but you don't really know about that. Like I said, I'm a huge fan of the Scott Snyder New 52 Batman run. Greg Capullo. Perfect art, beautiful art. The Court of Owls, man, was the craziest, and now they're the perfect villain. Because here's the thing, it's a group, and there never is a singling out on one person. Batman's been this character for years. They basically introduced this like elite secret society that's been in the background. He finds out like they've been here forever and they've been manipulating him the entire time for thousands of, like his entire family has been tied up in this for the history of the Waynes and Gotham, and they've been doing this for hundreds of years, and he didn't know about it. And he's like, what? And he's like, his first introduction, he's like, I know everything about Gotham. And he's like, what the hell is this? And he gets like dragged down this labyrinth and under the ground, and they kill him basically. And there's a Oh, they almost got. There's a whole other thing there, but then they have all these villains, and then they continuously keep coming back, and it's like they're just this. Their masks are creepy, and they're perfect because they don't die. It's a group. It's a mission.
might
So
kill somebody,
you keep
but
kill.
there's
He
somebody
can
else.
go in. There's a stories where he goes in and like eliminate. There's a guy. There's like a guy who was working for them who turns around and he eliminates the entire Court of Owls. And it comes back in another episode because it's a group. There's no
more
one
behind
person.
it. There's
no
always
one
more.
guy. So there's no main character. No one's singled out. Oh, you're the leader. There is no leader. And there's just these evil people. And then they just are in the scenes doing all this creepy stuff. And it's like, what the hell are these
So you're
guys
saying
doing?
that run is more reality based, is what you're saying?
Basically, yeah. That's the
It's like
Illuminati.
It's like the hand from. The
I
Daredevil
gotta say,
stuff.
I've noticed some interesting artwork on the back of that list. Is that thing for sale or what? I mean, can I
want.
archive that
If you want
whenever
to.
you're done?
If you want to, yeah.
Okay, so
Um,
we might auction this in a couple of years. If
It's not that great. It's
the channel
just,
does
it's
that
just
well.
scribbling. Number 4 is going to be Two-Face. In The Dark Knight Rises, this is a famous quote. In The Dark Knight Rises, in The Dark Knight Rises, he says, "You either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain," which becomes an infamous quote that actually originated from The Dark Knight Rises, which is what Two-Face says, which is and it's so true, and he's the emblem of that. He's the not the emblem, but he's the embodiment of that. That this guy is fighting so hard to stop crime as his friend of Batman. And this story's been told whatever, but as friend of Batman and Bruce Wayne, he's tight with both of them, and he's fighting so hard to stop crime. He eventually becomes the crime itself, and it's like a lesson, which is so true about life, which is that if you can work so hard to stop something or not be something or change something, and fight so hard and lose sight of yourself, you can become worse or just as bad or worse as that thing. And that's the story of Two-Face. And so he's just this he's always in there, pops up, he's here and there, he's this crazy character, but his overall classic story and classic villain, awesome story. And then he like, it just shows when somebody breaks, man, something breaks this guy, and this guy gets broken. No, I already know the order. There was something else I was going to say here somewhere. Okay. Number 3, Ra's al Ghul. Ra's al Ghul, however you want to pronounce it. He is. Him and Batman have a really cool respect going on. He is, in ways, as far as on a surface, one of the best kind of villains for Batman, because he's this immortal character. He has the Lazarus Pit, which allows him to come back all the time. He runs the League of Assassins. He's got all this ability. That's why he calls the Batman a detective. He respects the Batman. He understands the Batman's capabilities. And he's always popping back up, and it's like there's always this sort of fight, and he's a thorn. He's there, like he causes trouble or whatever. But at the end of the day, like he's the one who brought Jason Todd back to life. Like he respects Batman. He took responsibility. He felt it was, and I don't remember the whole backstory, but later on we come back with the Red Hood and all. He felt it was his fault that Jason Todd got killed by the Joker, and so he brings him back to life in the Lazarus Pit as a payback and out of respect to Batman, Bruce Wayne. Classic character, been there forever. Really cool. He looks really cool. He's got the sword. He's got this he's just got this like regal sort of just like honor kind of to him. That's really cool. Detective. Number 2 is Bane. And I'm surprised he was so low on your list. Listen, what you were talking about earlier, you were talking about Bane and you did everything. Bane, but he didn't break Batman's back. He broke the bat. And here's the thing. It was like at least a year-long build-up into this. They didn't show, he was building up into this classic Nightfall storyline where he comes in, he releases all of the criminals from Arkham Asylum and Blackgate to come at Batman over time and wear the Batman down. And he's moving in the shadows with all these things. And then in the penultimate episode, when Batman is exhausted, like Batman's already said, Batman's like, listen, Batman says, listen, like he's like, I'm ready to die. And he goes home, and sitting in his house is Bane. And he's like, all right, now we're going to fight. Like, I'm here to fight you. And he's like, why do you want to do this? And he's like, because I can, you know what I'm saying? I want to show you that I'm the beast. And so then he beats like the brakes off of Batman. He was going to kill him. And then he's fighting him. And he's like, man, you're weak as piss. And so he goes, I'm not going to kill you. I'm going to break you and leave you alive, because that actually hurts you worse. And he breaks his back, and And from there she wrote. Obviously, Batman comes back after time, but for a while there, he's like, he screwed up. And he mentally screwed him up. And then here's the thing: there's several other stories that he's done. There's another version that did more recently where he did something similar. He took over the city and did something similar. And in that one, and this is the more recent comics, he killed Alfred in front of Robin. And screwed up Robin, and and Alfred's now he's dead right now in the comics. Damian Wayne, yeah, and he's dead in the comics. But he's that's the thing, right? He's intellectually, strategically, he's on that level, and then physically, he's more powerful than Batman, and he's got skills. So he's this dangerous thing to Batman. And you cannot, when Bane shows up, there's some times where he gets pwned. There's some times where he just gets smacked around, or he gets weakened a little bit. But overall, when he shows up, it's an issue. Like, it's not Batman. Batman never just like gets past him easily. Like, there's a struggle there. He's a problem for Batman. And then number one, I mean, come on, listen. Number one has got to be the Joker. I mean, Bane broke the bat, but Joker's done so much worse to him because he didn't hurt Batman. He hurt the people that he cared about. I mean, all the stuff that he's done to him, death of the family, where he comes back. I mean, Barbara Gordon, the Killing Joke, he comes in and he's just done so much crap, right? And then he's the ultimate duck up which is what you see in the Killing Joke, which is the point. His lesson in the Killing Joke, he's trying to tell Batman is we're basically the same. Like, you're one bad way. Everybody's one bad day away from being me. Like, people look at me and they go, "You're this crazy serial killer guy." Someone could come in your house and shoot your family and you would turn into me. And that was a story which they play there, which is Batman loses his parents when he's a little kid. And they play the origin story of the Joker in this universe, because I don't know if it's canon, which is he's this comedian who's like struggling and he loses his wife and his unborn child to the crime. And so, and then he's in so basically like these two people, and the core of it is these two guys are at the wrong place at the wrong time. And because of this tragedy, they decide to teach the world a lesson, but they go in two different directions. Batman goes and tries to stop crime. He goes crazy and is just going to try to and everything's a joke. And he's just like, the biggest joke is all of this is pointless, right? And his character it's gotten to so much that the people have actually, there's been conversations about, and it's actually been hinted at that the Joker knows he's a comic book character. People have hinted the Joker knows he's a comic book character, and that's his big thing. He's got this final joke, and the final joke is none of this matters because we're all not even real. It's a comic book, whatever. And there's been hints at that in stories where there was one specific story where he said some stuff like that where he's like, "Y'all don't even get this is pointless, whatever." It's just this dichotomy, and that's why the Batman Laughs is so cool, because it shows you that when if you put the Joker and the Batman together, the coolest thing about the Batman Laughs is he brought the Joker and the Batman together as friends not friends, but allies. And at the end of that crossover, one point in that crossover, he falls down under the mansion, and he's like fighting the Batman, and he's like beating the crap out of the Batman who laughs says, and he's like, you got nothing. And then he's like, well, I'm not alone. And then the Joker walks out the shadows, and he's like, he hits him, and then he looks at the Joker, and he's like, "We're not telling anybody about this ever." And the two of them beat the crap out of the Batman who laughs together, because the Joker is, he doesn't want the Batman, evil Joker Batman.
No.
But that's the top 10 right there. Which
So I have a question.
One
what year did the Killing Joke storyline come out?
That was one. It was one issue.
Okay.
That was
I don't remember off the top of my head.
Okay, because there was a
80s
band
or
from
90s.
I'm not sure. There was an album I came across years ago. It was in the mid '90s.
Google it.
From a band called Killing Joke, and it was like a kind of a cross between like maybe Psychic TV and My Life with the Thrill Kill Cult. It was like a somewhat industrial sound, but it was funky. It's a really great album.
This was like a late 80s, early 90s kind of thing.
I don't
I just
remember.
wonder
You
if they
can
took the
Google it.
name.
Super long
If the band
ago.
took the name, I'll have to look into that.
Super long time ago.
You know about Killing Joke, the band? Let
Tell
us
it,
know.
people, everyone.
That was Brian Boland was the artist, and I can't remember who the writer was. It might have been Doug Mink or whatever. He did a lot of old Batman stuff.
All right,
So,
well, it's been real. It's been fun. Can't say it's been real fun.
Yeah, hey, if you're watching these videos and you're subscribing to our channel, we really appreciate it. But comment below if you've got your top 10 list. Throw them on the comments. We'll comment on you if we like your list. We'll pin it for up to the top. And if you have ideas for top 5, top 10 lists, whatever, shoot them back at us. And if you watch any of our other videos, comment on those. Let us know. Let us know what you think of things and what you want to see. And
Thanks for joining us.
yeah, we'll see you next time on Pop Culture Conversations.